Are you tired of feeling like your stomach has its own agenda? Like the bloating, gas, or constant trips to the bathroom are running your life? Welcome to the Beyond Bloated podcast, the podcast where we tackle those frustrating gut issues head on, without strict diets or giving up your favorite foods. I'm Carly, a certified gut health coach who's been there, struggling with bloating that made me look 6 months pregnant, gut pain that kept me from enjoying meals, and fatigue so draining it felt impossible to get through the day. Now, I help women like you find freedom from those symptoms and take back control of their lives. Each week, we'll debunk gut health myths, dive into simple, actionable tips, and hear stories from women who've been exactly where you are. It's time to feel confident, energized, and bloat-free. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond Bloated podcast, or welcome for the very first time. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to remind you all that I am still taking questions for an upcoming Q&A episode. I have never done a Q&A episode before, but I want to do one. And to do it, I need your questions. I have received a few already, so thank you to those of you who have submitted a question to me. If you have not done so, you can do so in a few ways. A, you can send me a text. In the show notes, there is a link that says, send me a text. That is anonymous. I have received questions through this method, and I promise you, I do not know who you are. I do not see your phone number. I do not see anything about you. So if you want to remain anonymous and ask a question, that's your best method. If you don't care if I know who you are, send me a DM on Instagram at beyond.bloated, or send me an email, carlyclose@beyondbloated.com. Anyway, you can reach me, you can send me a question, and I would love to continue collecting those so I can have a fun and useful Q&A episode for you in the near future. Now, the real reason why you are here. Today's episode is dedicated to all of my ladies that feel extremely tired, burnt out, and of course, bloated. Today, we are going to shed some light on why you are feeling this way, the connection between burnout, mental health, and your gut issues, and what you can do to start improving all of the above. And I will be conquering these topics with my fabulous guest. Colleen is a clinical therapist and functional nutritional therapy practitioner who helps burnt out women in their 30s and 40s finally feel like themselves again. She blends the worlds of therapy and functional nutrition to get to the root of things like chronic exhaustion, anxiety, low mood, and that constant pressure to just keep on pushing through. Colleen uses tools like functional lab testing, personalized nutrition, and nervous system support to help women get real answers and practical tools without all of the shame, guesswork, or quick fix band-aids. I am so excited to dive into this conversation with her today, especially around how our mental health, burnout, and digestion are all connected. So without further ado, let's give a big, warm welcome to Colleen Kurtz. Thank you so much for joining us on the Beyond Bloated podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here too. Can't wait to jump into our topic today. I think it's a really important one. I want to start by asking you, what got you interested in your field? Was it a personal story? Was it just a passion of yours? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, my entry into nutrition was truly through my own health journey. I spent years of my life just being sick and sort of dismissed, not sort of, I was dismissed and told everything was normal. Go see this specialist. And I don't even know how many specialists I saw, but just sort of shuffled from one person to the next to the next. Here's another prescription, do this, take this test, while at the same time being told everything was normal, everything was fine. I didn't really know what to do. I was in my teens, early 20s, trying to navigate, going to college. And there were points in college where I was so sick that I had to come home on the weekends because I just couldn't even function. And I just didn't know where to go from there. And as I got into my career, I went to school for psychology and social work. So I have a master's in social work. And as I was working in hospitals and working in mental health, I had a lot of conversations with people about different things. And it, led to more doctors, more tests and stuff like that. And what I was finding is a lot of people were just kind of masking the symptoms. It wasn't until I was introduced to the potential that nutrition and our digestion all were connected to our mental health, our physical health. And my mind was really blown because at the time I worked inpatient psychiatry in a hospital, and I was just thinking, I don't see the connection here. And it was recommended to me through somebody who went through the same nutrition program that I went to cut out gluten from my diet. And I was like, what is this word? This doesn't even sound like a real word. What is this? So I, of course, did my own research, and I thought, okay, fine, I'll give it 2 weeks. That's it. I'm so tired. I'm so burnt out. I've been through terrifying potential diagnoses like cancer and MS and all of these other things, and had the biopsies and the MRIs, and everything was still, nope, you're perfectly healthy. And in the meantime, I was sleeping like 15 hours a day, taking over probably 10 prescriptions, and really just barely getting through the day. And within 2 weeks, I was able to step off some of my medications. I remember sitting on the couch with my husband, and it was past 7:30, and just being like, oh, you're still awake. Things started to get really clear for me. I had a lot of brain fog. I was getting migraines every single day, joint pain. And I remember starting to wake up and being like, oh, I don't hurt so much anymore. And I stuck with it. I said, okay, I think there's something here. And then I really went down the rabbit hole even more and said, I need to go back to school for this, because I see all of this in the hospital. Working in patient psychiatry, I worked ER, I worked trauma too. And so I was seeing a lot of things in those settings, and just kept thinking, can't we prevent some of this? And I just spent a decade of my life plus going through this referral to another doctor and all of these things to be just told everything's fine. And I changed my diet, and in 2 weeks I started to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Now there was a lot more that I had to do. It wasn't just 2 weeks. It took more time than that to really be able to step fully off of all of my prescriptions and function through the day like I should be able to. But it happened with a lot of the own research that I did. And then going back to school just really kind of put all the pieces together for me.
Wow, that's crazy. And it is so common, right? Like we have our own health journey, and we get stuck because we want help and we can't find it, and we're handed prescriptions and who knows what else. And then at the end of the day, like you change your diet, and 2 weeks later, you're feeling better than you felt on 10 prescriptions. So that's crazy. There's definitely something to that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So could you start us out here by letting us know what is the connection between your nervous system, mental health, and digestion? Because I know that is a big passion and focus of yours. So let's hear it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Our brain and our body aren't operating in separate silos. And I mean, I was taught this in school, that we had our brain that was doing kind of its own thing and our body that was doing its own thing. But our mental health, our nervous system, and our gut are intimately connected. We have the vagus nerve that connects the brain and the gut together, right? So our gut is essentially known as our second brain. I kind of feel like the gut maybe does a little more some days, right? But when we have any sort of dysfunction in our gut, our brain's going to feel that. So we can have gut inflammation, our brain's going to be inflamed. If we have blood sugar imbalance, we're on that roller coaster of, spikes and drops all day long. We're going to feel that in our brain. And when we're in a stressed out state, we can't even digest our food. Our digestive juices turn off, right? So we're not producing stomach acid. We're not producing those pancreatic enzymes that we need to actually digest our food. That food is left sitting in the gut. And so we start to see bloating, reflux, burping gas, things like that, and a lot of discomfort. But then our gut is getting inflamed, and it's trickling into, what's going on with us physically, what's going on with us mentally. So there's this huge connection. The other side is the serotonin and dopamine. And when I was in school for psychology and social work, we learned that serotonin and dopamine were just in your brain. They're just there, and it's this chemical imbalance, right? And you need the medication to restabilize your neurotransmitters. then I went back to school and learned all about gut health. And guess what? 90% of your serotonin and 50% of your dopamine is actually made in the gut. So there's this huge connection that when our digestion is struggling, our neurotransmitters are off, and we can have this bloating and constipation and gut inflammation and anxiety and depression, and we think they're two separate things, and they're actually connected with that vagus nerve and how our body functions and keeps us moving or not moving throughout the day, right?
That's hilarious that you went to school for brain related health things, essentially, and they're giving you only 10% of the story because, like you said, 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. And I don't know. I don't know if that's intentional or if they truly do not know. Whatever the reasoning is, it's a little concerning.
I mean, it was, let's see, I'm going to really age myself here. I graduated grad school in 2009. So, I mean, it was a while ago. I can't tell you off the top of my head how long ago we had this information and research, but it was definitely not taught. And even working in patient psychiatry, and we had pharmaceutical companies coming in and all of this stuff, and there was never a conversation about diet, movement, where these neurotransmitters are made and how we can improve them. It was just medication, right?
Hey everyone, Carly here. If you are tired of feeling bloated and uncomfortable, which I know you are, I have something that can really help. My free ultimate guide to bloat busting. I've been there myself, and I know how frustrating it is to try super restrictive diets and expensive supplements without getting results. If those methods were going to work, they would have worked by now. That's why I created this guide to offer you a different approach. In the ultimate guide to bloat busting, you'll learn techniques to listen to your body and eat with intention, avoiding overeating and choosing foods that truly benefit you, tips for proper hydration to support digestion and reduce bloating, a guide to delicious foods that promote a healthy gut and how to easily incorporate them into your meals, and effective methods to manage stress, which plays a huge role in gut health. These simple, practical strategies can make a big difference in your daily life, helping you feel lighter, more energized, and comfortable in your own skin. Ready to ditch the bloat without strict diets or costly supplements? Download your free copy today at beyondbloated.com/ultimate-guide and start your journey to a bloat-free life. Now, let's get back to it.
Yeah, it's sad. And I feel like even in the medical system today, I don't think much has changed, unfortunately, as to like education around nutrition for any sort of condition, because as we've kind of come to realize, it comes down to the gut a lot of the time. So with that, I guess, what are some signs that you have noticed in your own practice that a woman's digestive issues are actually being driven by nervous system dysregulation or burnout or something of the sort?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, when we look at stress, I work with a lot of women who are experiencing exhaustion, anxiety, depression, and burnout overall. And their digestion, I mean, again, they're completely connected, right? But their digestion is completely dysregulated. And they often come in saying, I'm crashing at 2 o'clock. I'm feeling anxiety the minute that I wake up. My mood's really low. I don't really want to do the things that I used to enjoy. I just want to sleep. And even when I sleep, I don't feel like I have the energy to do things. But when we start to dig down, I'll start asking, are you pooping every single day? Do you experience bloating after meals? What about reflux? What about gas or burping? Oh yeah, I do get those. What's going on with your menstrual cycle? Oh, it's really irregular. Sometimes it's light, sometimes it's heavy. I'll see a lot of dysregulation in there. Really unpredictable, really bad cramps, but that's normal, right? We normalize these things. And I often hear, I'm just tired because I'm a mom, or I'm getting older, so I'm tired, or my cycles are starting to dysregulate because I'm getting closer to menopause. No. And those are the things that I see. And I start to ask a lot of questions of, what's sleep like, what's bedtime like, and things like that, because we can have this really dysregulated nervous system. And most of us are stuck in this go, go, go mode, or, that fight or flight mode. And we're not really getting into a parasympathetic state, which is what we need to be in to actually be able to digest our food. And we need to be intentionally creating that space in our day. And most of the time, particularly with the women that I see, we're not doing that. We're taking care of the kids and the job and friends and all of these different things. And we are last on the list. I'll even see people come in, I'm sure you've seen this too, where, I'm eating all of the right things. Their diet is on point, but their nervous system is totally fried. And then they're having all of these digestive issues. They're anxious, they're depressed, they're exhausted, because their body's not actually able to give them the nourishment it needs from the great diet that it's eating, because it's not even digesting and absorbing those nutrients in the gut.
100%. You pointed out a couple of good key points there. One of which being that as women, we are often the caretaker. And I actually had someone recently ask me, like, how come you work with women and not men? Like my target audience is women. And I was like, it's not that I wouldn't work with a man. It's just that in my experience, women get the shit end of the stick, honestly. Like our digestive system, our hormones are way more complicated. Our lives, like we have so much stress. We handle stress differently than men. Like the burden that women take on just seems to be a lot more than men, and it impacts us differently. Honestly, I don't even know a woman in my life that has no digestive or like hormonal or mental like issues. It's just insanely common, whereas I can pick out a few men in my life that do. So it's not discrimination. I would help men for sure. Do you notice that as well?
Yeah, it's this, we feel like we have to ask for permission to do things. I need to ask permission to go work out. I need to ask permission to have a girls' night. I need to ask permission to invest in myself. At the same time, what I hear from those same women is often their partners aren't doing that. They're like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing for me. We have to understand, what are the things that we are telling ourselves? Am I worthy to get some support? Am I worthy to feel better so that I can show up and do all of these things? But that wired and exhausted feeling all the time, the bloating, the, waking up in the middle of the night, random waking, cycle dysregulation, all of those things are signs that your body needs that support. And it's absolutely okay to prioritize you, because it's not normal to feel all of those things, and you shouldn't have to.
And that was the other point that I wanted to touch on that you mentioned, is that we make so many excuses for why what we're feeling is normal. And I did that too.
Yeah.
I was a university student when I was going through it, and I was sick all the time. I was tired all the time. I had UTIs all the time. Like I had so many issues before even my gut issues kicked in. And I just thought, A, I'm a university student. This is life. And B, I have bad genes. My mom also like got UTIs a lot, which she had a messed up gut too, which we've now worked on, and she's good. But we make excuses. And I think part of it is because we don't know truly. Like I truly did not know that there was something else going on. I thought this is just the hand I've been dealt. And then I think a little part of it is like, we also don't really want to have to change, because it's like, once I did figure out, okay, I need to eliminate all these foods from my diet because I had an atrocious diet. I have to change the way I sleep, my movement, my stress. I have to do so much work, and it's daunting depending on the type of life that you already live. Do you see that as well?
I do. And that was me too. I mean, my diet was absolutely atrocious. I thought it was great at the time. We were just talking about this the other day. I mean, it was heavily pasta and breads. And then we would get, gosh, what were those things called? They were like the pre-made pasta and rice packages, like rice sides or pasta sides or stuff like that. I mean, we would stock up on these things. They were like $1 each. And that was our dinner. And I'm pretty sure the only protein I got, I was a vegetarian at the time too. So I wasn't getting any protein from animal products. I was living off of refined carbohydrates, I was in severe pain in my gut. Nobody ever actually sent me to, that was the one doctor I never saw. It was a GI doctor. But I remember driving home like hunched over the steering wheel after work because I was having such stabbing pains in my stomach. And everyone was just like, oh, you probably ate something. But we normalize this. How many times do you go on Instagram or Facebook and it's just made into a joke? You know, we have this like all these t-shirts about how exhausted moms are and watch out because so-and-so is getting their period and they're raging in all of these different things. Like we sort of make fun of it. It's not normal. It's common, but it's not normal to experience this level of dysfunction that we see, particularly, you know, with women. That, again, we're not giving ourselves permission to take care of ourselves in the right way, or we just don't know what to do because there's so much information out there. And I get that question. I'm sure you do too. Like, what diet should I do? I'm like, I don't know. Let's look at what you're eating right now. Do we need a diet or do we just need to kind of like make some swaps here and there, right?
True. I had a call with a client yesterday who she's new and she was like, okay, like what do I need to do? Like, should I fast? Should I do this AIP diet? Should I do keto? She's just listing all this. She's like, what one do you think I should do? And I was like, none of the above.
None of the above is the answer.
Yeah. I was like, okay, let's tone it back here. This is not what we need. We do not need extreme measures. We do not need to stop eating for 24 hours. We do not need crazy diets. We just need the basics. We need the foundations. Like we need to get back to what honestly we all know we should be doing, but we ignore because it seems too simple. It seems like we have so much going on in life that like I don't have time to go to bed at 9 p.m. I can't. But it's like you gotta.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna help you so much more than the keto diet. I can promise you that. I know you have a similar take on not being super restrictive with your diet, not doing these crazy extreme measures. Does that help with clients in their digestion and their mental health?
Yeah, I don't believe that we need to cut out everything and be really restrictive. In my therapy practice, I've worked with a lot of disordered eating clients, and I've seen a few of them in my nutrition as well. And honestly, to some degree, anyone that I see has some sort of disordered eating, just again, from what you were saying, like, should I do keto? Should I do this? Should I do that? But the restrictive piece is what I see most often is we're taking all of these things away. I've had clients come in where they're like, I can only eat these 5 foods. Everything else completely wrecks me. That's causing more harm than good. But I think if we just say, what do you need right now? Like we're putting so much on our plate and then feeling like I can't to every single thing. And that's such a mental game when we're telling ourselves, I can't eat this, I can't do this thing so that I can be healthy isn't health, because then we're just ruminating on this constantly of what we can't do. And I can only eat carrots, I can't have the donut and things like that. And when I sit down and talk to people and I'm like, well, let's just start with one thing. Like, where do you feel like is the easiest place to start? Are you eating breakfast? What does that look like? Okay, so you really like toaster waffles. Great. Let's figure out like a different way to do that where it's not just a plain toaster waffle. Can we do maybe a gluten-free one if we see that gluten is something that they are reacting to in their testing? Can we add something to that? Some fiber, some protein? How can we make this thing that feels easy to you something that's a little bit more nutritious, not taking things away, but finding swaps. I've had people that say, I don't have time for breakfast in the morning, so I just don't eat. Okay, well, what if we made breakfast really easy? Okay, well, I'll do that. And then it's something that takes 5 minutes and maybe it's not the best quality. Maybe it's not 100% of where we want to be, but now you're eating breakfast. And instead of 900 calories a day, you're getting closer to 1,500 calories a day. And then you're starting to feel better and we can do more from there because then you're mentally feeling better, physically feeling better. But if we're like, okay, here's this very lengthy, time-consuming meal plan, and here's how you have to eat completely perfect, and I'm going to take away all of the things that you actually enjoy in life, no one's going to follow that. They're just going to be like, okay, that's too hard, right? Simple swaps. start somewhere small.
I love it. I completely agree. You and I seem like we had a very similar background, whereas we had atrocious diets, and I was not handed the news in a gentle way. We did a food sensitivity test and it lit up, and I was told, stop eating all these things. And I had a meltdown because how do I eat? If I can't have my toaster strudel in the morning, how do I have breakfast? Like that was my mentality. So it is so important to meet people where they're at and make tiny steps forward, because it does build momentum, because you do start to feel better quite quickly if you are like having horrible breakfast or not breakfast at all, and then you just start adding a little bit of protein and a little bit of fiber. Your body's like, thank you, woohoo. So like now we have more energy, now we can do more. So I 100% agree. I love the approach. I do the same thing because progress over perfection is really the motto. Nobody is perfect. Nobody in the whole planet is perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. So striving for it is going to stress you out, which is going to cause you to have gut issues. So please, no striving for perfect. Just do a little better than you did the day before, and you're on the right track.
Yeah, that's what I tell people, 1% better every day. But you know what's interesting too is you mentioned just the nervous system side, because just like diet, and we get really restrictive, or I have to do this diet. I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and she said, I just need to know what to do because I have the castor oil packs and I have the red light. And it was like this, list of all of the things that she's doing, the sauna, the dry brushing, all of this stuff. And I see that all the time too. I don't know if you see that, where I'm doing all of these things. And as I'm hearing, like, what does your day look like? Not only are we having a really busy day because we're working, we have kids that we're running from one thing to the other, whatever that looks like, but then we're trying to take care of ourselves. And it's this, I have to do the breath work. I have to do the sauna. I have to do the dry brushing. And then none of those things, they're actually creating more stress. We're not actually present in any of those. So you're not going to get the effects of the thing that's supposed to be supporting you. And if you just are like, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes to do some breathing today, that's going to be far more beneficial than, okay, I have to go through this checklist of holistic supports to make me feel better that are stressing me out more, right? Do you see that too?
Oh, yeah. There's two types of clients, honestly. There's the clients who are very new to holistic health, and they don't have the best diet, they don't have the best lifestyle because they truly do not know. So with them, it's like taking small steps forward to improve little by little. And then I have the other clients who are the holistic health people who have done all the digging, who follow all the influencers, who have the red light therapy lamps and all the things. And they're like, I already do it all. I'm still bloated. What's my problem? That right out the gate, I know what your problem is. You're doing too much. And yes, with those, actually with anybody, I don't ask them to do specific things. I don't tell them, go to the gym 5 days a week, eat this for breakfast. It's more like, what type of movement do you enjoy? What would be fun for you? What would make meal prepping more enjoyable? Like, could you put on a fun playlist while you do it? Could you listen to a podcast that you like? Like, let's make life more fun and enjoyable instead of this checklist of things I need to do to feel better, just like you said, because it's not going to make you feel better if it's stressing you out. And the same goes for your diet. Like, if you hate kale and you're like, I need to eat kale every day because it's good for you, it's not going to help unless you hate it.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely a fine balance between, yes, you need to do things that are good for you and your body and eat well, but you also need to enjoy life and not have this massively jam-packed schedule with a million things you need to get done in a day. And it's not easy. So what tips do you have for the woman who is doing it all and is truly stuck?
I'd say start with one thing. There's a whole list of options out there, but if you're doing all the things, changing your diet up and restricting your food and doing all of these holistic supports, pull back on those, give yourself some space and pick one thing that brings you calm. It could be, sitting by yourself somewhere if that's possible. And I know, the moms out there, sometimes it's not. And it could be, reading a book, taking a bath, going for a walk, whatever that looks like for you that brings you joy. That's the thing. We shouldn't be just like checking a box. It should be something that actually brings you joy. I'm a big proponent of eating before our coffee, before, we really start to get going, like eat within an hour of waking to keep that blood sugar stable throughout the day. If it's, a little over than that, okay, but really making sure that we're supporting that blood sugar regulation and in turn, your nervous system by giving you a really nutrient dense meal to start the day so that we can keep that stress level nice and calm. So we're not getting cortisol spikes and blood sugar spikes and drops that are increasing any sort of anxiety or mood dysregulation. I mean, it could be even just taking 5 deep breaths before your meals so that we're getting into that restful state and making sure you're chewing your food and things like that. Most people think, oh, I have to revamp my diet, but it doesn't really matter. If you're eating super stressed out or you're skipping meals or you're under eating, those are going to be causing more dysfunction, dysregulation than anything else. And so I like to start with like, just what is one thing you can do today? And then tomorrow and the day after, right?
I agree. It is slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
And I like that everything that you mentioned is very doable. It doesn't involve buying an expensive supplement or cutting out all the foods in your life. I say all the time, how you eat is just as important, if not more so, than what you eat.
Yes.
But we always get asked, what do I need to eat? What do I need to eliminate? And it's not the question we should be asking. It's how should I be eating this meal? Sit at the table, take the deep breaths, put your phone away, just sit there, eat your meal, enjoy it. I sit on the balcony every morning with my breakfast, no technology. My view is a nice trail. So I'm looking at nature, I'm in the sun.
Yeah.
That's how I start my mornings. And I digest my breakfast great.
That morning light too. I mean, that's setting you up for better sleep and all of these different things. I mean, there's a lot of really good starting places, but if you focus on what does my breakfast look like, because we try to overhaul every meal. Okay, now what do I do? What do I eat? How do I do this? Just start with one meal. And permission to also not have to eat with your family. I think that oftentimes as women, we're like, I have to do this big family dinner, but then I'm getting up and getting a kid something and doing this and sitting back down, and we're in a stressful state there. That was one of the biggest things for me is after going through all this work, I started to notice some of the bloating come back and after meals. And it was always dinner, and it was always dinner with my kids. And I finally said, I'm going to sit here with them, but I'm going to eat my meals later or before, kind of depending what our schedule looks like, because the constant up and down, the redirection that we do with kids, the arguments that they sometimes get into at the table, it's a lot, and it creates stress in the body. So it's absolutely okay to say, this isn't working for me. I'm going to eat at a separate time, and I'm still going to sit here, ask them about their day, but my meal needs to actually be consumed in a more restful place. And as soon as I made that shift, the bloating was gone again. So we sometimes have to look at things, and it's not, like you said, it's not just about what you eat, it's how you're eating. What's your environment like?
I agree. And I love that you made that shift for yourself and it worked. And that's proof right there, how you eat impacts your bloating. So Take a look at your environment next time you sit down to eat a meal. Are you rushing? Are you watching TV? Are you anxious? Did you just get off of a stressful meeting and jump right into lunch? Because these are all things that are going to impact your digestion more than what you ate. So with that, could you give us a little more information on your group coaching program?
Yeah, so I run a group coaching program for women called Flourish, and this is really for those women out there, moms, non-moms, just that are exhausted, burnt out, anxious, not really sure what to do. And what I love about the group coaching program is I've brought in functional lab testing. So I do a HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis that you get in a review. So we really get into here's the basics, here's the foundations of health, but also we're tailoring that to each woman that goes through the program, and a community of women that are also in this I don't know what to do burnout. There's so much noise out there, and it's really cool to see them support each other in this, and then the wins that they're experiencing each week. And it's still a high level of support. I'm still in there. I do coaching calls every single week to make sure that everyone has questions answered. And we really dive into a lot of nervous system, how our gut and brain are connected, and why this is so important for burnout and mood stabilization and things like that. What does a balanced plate look like, and how that's can be different for each person. So they have the option of doing macros if they want. It's not something that I am like, let's do this with every single person. Everyone needs to be tracking, because that can get really restrictive and obsessive as well. And then movement, we talk a lot about movement. We talk a lot about sleep, how to fall asleep and then stay asleep all night while waking up refreshed, and then how to make this last outside of the program. How do we do these things and then keep it going? So we talk a lot about mindset. There's a lot of therapy built into it, I will say. We cover a lot of behavior. How do we change our behavior? Because it's not just about doing the things. It's about how do we create this into a lifestyle. So it's a really fun place.
Amazing. That does sound like a fun place. And it sounds very supportive and helpful as well for not just your physical health, but your mental health. I love that there's that therapy component. It sounds amazing. And I encourage everyone to check it out. And where can they find it? Where can they find you and more information about the program?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Colleen_mindfully nourished. And then my website is mindfully-nourished.com. So information is on both. And I always love people just reaching out in DMs where I can chat and just have some of those conversations. I know when we're just exhausted and burnt out, sometimes just even hopping on the call can be one more thing on our calendar. So I'm in there chatting with people all the time and love having those conversations.
I love that. And I, again, encourage everyone, go follow Colleen, check out her program, see if it's a good fit for you. I always love when practitioners have been through it themselves. I went through it myself. You went through it yourself. We have a complete different understanding of what you're going through than like the standard doctor who just learned about it in a textbook. Lived experience plus the textbook experience equals a really great supportive environment. So I love that you've been through it, you've come out the other side, and now you are helping others do the same. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing all of your knowledge and your program. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed speaking with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is fun.
Did you learn something new and useful today? If the answer is a big, resounding hell yeah, do me a favor. Subscribe to this podcast. Even better, toss a rating in there too. It helps more bloated babes discover this show and lets me keep bringing you this free, gut-loving content every single week. And hey, don't be greedy. Share this episode with your bestie who's always unbuttoning her pants after dinner. She will love you even more for it. Thanks for hanging out with me and showing your gut some love. Keep on putting what you learn into practice, and you will be bloat-free in no time. Catch you in the next one. Bye.